Alright students, let's go ahead and do the next chapter ka revision. The next chapter is assessments. Everyone, let's take a quick linking. We started learning GST with goods or service. Goods or service has to be supplied. Supply can be either interstate or intra. Interstate, what will happen everyone? IGST, intrastate, CGST. Once GST is levied, GST has to be collected and paid by a taxable person. He will calculate GST is equal to value of supply into rate of tax. Once you know the value, you will prepare tax invoice, credit note, debit note and delivery challan, and then you will maintain your accounts and send the goods with the help of e-way bill. Now your liability to pay will come. That comes at the time of supply. You will use your input tax credit and remaining amount you will make the payment, and then you will file your returns. Everyone, in each stage you have a doubt, you can go ahead and ask a advance ruling. Now start the department ka work where assessments will start. Everyone, assessment section number 59 self-assessment, 60 provisional assessment, 61 scrutiny, 62 base judgment of non-filer, base judgment of unregistered person is 63, 64 is summary assessment. Everyone over here, what do you mean by assessment? Assessment means determination of tax liability. So whenever you are going ahead and determining your tax liability, that is the meaning of assessment. You determine, officer determines, everything is assessment. Section number 59 self-assessment. Every registered person shall self-assess the tax payable, go ahead and pay the tax and file a return under section number 39. Then we have provisional attachment. Provisional assessment, section number 60. What happened? 59 done everyone. Self-assessment, 60. 60 is provisional assessment. Provisional assessment, suo motu by the proper officer can't be done. Always a taxable person only can go ahead and apply for provisional assessment. Provisional assessment, whenever taxable person is unable to determine value of supply or rate of tax. Remember always, taxable person can be a person who is registered also or liable to register also. So a taxable person unable to determine value or rate of tax, then he can request the proper officer in GST ASMT 01 for provisional payment of tax. Now PO will go ahead and issue provisional assessment ka order in ASMT 04 within 90 days, allowing you to make provisional basis pay tax ka payment at such rate and such value as may be specified in the assessment order. Now he will also go ahead and tell you while issuing ASMT 04 that sir, you have to go ahead and make this much amount ka bond, along with that this much amount ka bank guarantee has to be given. On execution of bond in ASMT 05, along with that, he will go ahead and tell you to give bank guarantee. Always remember, if the bond is for 1 lakh, bank guarantee will be 25% of the amount of bond, which is 25,000 rupees. Then, final assessment will be done in ASMT 07. Within how much time, everyone? 6 months of the communication of provisional assessment order. The day you receive the provisional assessment order, within how much time? 6 months, they will go ahead and give final assessment order. If 6 months they can't do it, then the additional commissioner or joint commissioner can further extend the time limit by 6 months, and commissioner can further extend the time by 4 years. Right everyone? Then final assessment, if it is greater than provisional assessment, you will have to pay the tax along with interest at the rate of 50%. Sorry, interest under section number 50 at the rate of 18% from the due date till the date of payment. And always remember, this interest calculation is a day-wise calculation which is there. Due date, from the very next day of the due date till the date of payment, you will have to go ahead and make the payment along with interest at the rate of 18%. You can now file the application for release of security, which is basically ASMT 08. Proper officer will release the security after he goes ahead and ensures that you have gone ahead and made the payment, and he will issue a ASMT 09 within how many days? 7 days of the application, saying I am releasing your security. Always remember one thing, if provisional assessment amount is more than final assessment, might be final assessed amount is 4 lakh, provisionally you paid 5 lakh, then they will give you a refund along with interest at the rate of 6% under section number 56. Basically, you'll have to file a refund application within 60 days. If they give you a refund, very good. Otherwise, they will give you after 60 days, they will start giving you interest at the rate of 6%. That is, after the 60 days ka period, they will give you interest at the rate of 6%. Right, everyone? The one benefit of provisional assessment is penalties are not required to be paid. Then we have section number 61, scrutiny of return. Officer went ahead and started scrutinizing your return. So proper officer may scrutinize your return, and if he scrutinizes and he finds out any discrepancy, then he will go ahead and issue you a notice in ASMT 10 telling you what is the discrepancy, and you have to go ahead within how many days? 30 days, either accept the discrepancy or give an explanation. If you accept the discrepancy, pay the tax, interest, whatever amount is told in ASMT 10, whatever amount is there, make the payment, inform him using GST DRC 03. Now, if you inform him, chapter is anyways closed. But, sir, if you go ahead and give him an explanation in ASMT 11, now if he likes your explanation, very good, he will go ahead and issue an ASMT 12 and no further action. But if he doesn't like your explanation, or even after going ahead and accepting the discrepancy, if you don't take corrective action, PO has the following recourses available with him. What can he do? He can initiate an audit and special audit, inspection, search, seizure, and he can also go ahead now using all the audit, special audit ka details which he has gathered, inspection, search, seizure, documents, books, things which he has gone ahead and gathered, he will go ahead and raise a demand order, make the payment of the demand order within 3 months, very good, or within 3 months, go for an appeal, or greater than 3 months, they will start recovery. Remember, in the exam, they will go ahead and ask you what are the recourses available with the officer. If explanation furnished is not accurate or he doesn't like your explanation, PO can initiate actions including audit, special audit, inspections, seizure, all the details which are being gathered, he will go ahead and raise against you a demand order under section number 73 or 74. Right, everyone? The next one over here is base judgment assessment. Everyone, what did we learn till now? We learned 59. 59 is self-assessment. You will self-assess your liability, make the payment and file the return. Under section number 39, that's your monthly return. 60, provisional assessment. You will have to go ahead and apply to the officer. If you are not able to determine value or rate of tax, officer will go ahead and give you an assessment order. Then within how many days? 90 days. Then from the provisional assessment order ka communication date within 6 months plus or 6 months by the ACJC or 4 years by the commissioner can be taken, and final assessment order will be passed. Right, everyone? Final assessment more than provisional assessment. You will have to go ahead and pay the amount with interest, otherwise it will be refund. Scrutiny of return, you go ahead and file your return, officer will go ahead and check, may go ahead and check, and if he finds a discrepancy, he'll inform you, you make the payment, chapter closed, or you give an explanation, he likes your explanation, chapter closed, otherwise officer will go ahead and do audit, special audit, inspection, search, seizure, demand and recovery can happen. Then base judgment. Base judgment is section number 62, non-filer of return. They are going ahead and telling, if you have not gone ahead and filed your monthly return or bye-bye return, which is final return, they will give you a notice under section number 46, which is GSTR 3A, and tell you to file the return under within how many days? 15 days. If you file the return, very good. But if you don't file the return within 15 days, then officer will go ahead and do base judgment and issue an assessment order within how much time? From the due date, within 5 years from the due date in ASMT 13. So the base judgment assessment order is given in ASMT 13. Now, after you receive the return, run Baba run. If you file the return, after you receive the assessment order, within how many days? 30 days. If you go ahead and file your return, then assessment order shall be deemed to be withdrawn. It says deemed withdrawal if registered person furnishes a valid return. Valid return means you pay your taxes and you file the return, and the assessment order shall be deemed to be withdrawn. Means once you receive the assessment order, within 30 days, go ahead and file your return. But once you file the return with the tax, interest and penalty, interest and liability ka, interest and late fee ka liability shall continue. What did I tell you, everyone? best judgment assessment under section number 62. You have not filed your monthly return or your bye-bye return, which is their final return under section number 45. He will go ahead and give you a notice to file the return within 15 days. If you file the return within 15 days, very good. If you don't file the return within 15 days, then he will go ahead and give you what? Sir, then proper officer will go ahead and issue a best judgment assessment order. Once the best judgment assessment is done, you can go ahead within 30 days of the service of the order. You can file your return. If you file your return, best judgment assessment order deemed to be withdrawn. But when you are filing your return, please pay the tax and file your return. Liability and interest, liability for interest, etc. will still continue. Can I go ahead, everyone? Next, sir, there is a standard operating procedure which has been prescribed by the government under section number 62 for whom? For the non-filer of returns. Basically, they are going ahead and telling 3 days before the due date, we will go ahead and send one system generated SMS should be sent to all the registered person. Once the due date is over, to all the people who have not gone ahead and file the return, system generated SMS or email to be sent to all the non-filer. Now, once the due date is over, post 5 days, notice under section number 46 has to be given in GSTR 3A saying please file your return within 15 days. If within 15 days they don't go ahead and file their return, proper officer can now go ahead with best judgment if return is not filed, and he will go ahead and issue the best judgment assessment within 15 days. No, Baba, best judgment assessment order ka time limit is how much? Best judgment assessment ka time limit is 5 years from the due date of annual return, right everyone? And he will issue one best judgment assessment order. Now, if you go ahead, when he is going ahead and doing the best judgment, he will use your GSTR 1, GSTR 2A, 2B, etc. ka detail, e-way bill ka detail, and any other information which is there, he will go ahead and use. Now, he can use 2B ka details also, right everyone? Then, sir, best judgment will be withdrawn if valid return is punished within 30 days. Always remember, when he is going ahead and doing best judgment, commissioner can also go ahead and resort to provisional attachment. Basically, they can attach your bank accounts, etc. And also they can go for cancellation of registration under section number 29(2). Are we clear, everyone? Because you are not filing a return, etc., they can cancel your registration. Sir, best judgment of unregistered person under section number 63. If you are a person who is liable to be registered but you have failed to take a registration, or your registration was cancelled by the proper officer under section number 29(2). Do you remember section number 29(2) went ahead and told if you go ahead and contravene such provision of the act or rules, basically the rule number 21. What rule number 21 it is told, what are the provision you go ahead and contravene, then your registration will be cancelled. Composition person, no return for 3 consecutive tax period. Normal person, no return for 6 months. Or voluntary registered person, not commence business within 6 months. Or registration was obtained by fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of fact. In this scenario, registered person ka registration will be cancelled by the proper officer. So, if you are a taxable person who has failed to take registration or registration was cancelled by the proper officer but you are still liable to pay, then he will issue you a notice and he will state the ground for assessment and allow you how many days, everyone? 15 days to reply. Now, if you want, you can go ahead. Now, reply within 15 days. If he finds your reply valuable, then okay. If he doesn't find it valuable, then PO will proceed to assess the tax liability of the person to the best of his judgment. After giving an opportunity of being heard, he will go ahead and pass an assessment order. Always remember one thing, here show cause notice was given, opportunity of being heard was given, and then the assessment order was passed. So, no withdrawal. Right, everyone? Then, the next one is section number 64. I told you 59, self-assess your liability, make the payment, file your return. 60, provisional asset assessment, taxable person unable to determine value or rate of tax can apply for provisional assessment. Scrutiny is basically checking your return. 59, 60, 61 is scrutiny. 62 is best judgment of non-filer, best judgment of unregistered person. 63, 64 is summary assessment, means like a quick kind of an assessment. If supposingly transporter is going ahead and taking the goods and going, and officer catches him. Now transporter says, I don't know whose goods are this. Then officer will tell, I will assume it's your goods, and he will pass the assessment order. Everyone over here, proper officer on evidence that there is a tax liability, but plus prior permission of the additional commissioner or joint commissioner, he can go ahead and assess the tax liability of such person. Such person means might be the transporter, owner, operator of warehouse, etc. He can go ahead and assess the liability of those people to protect the interest of the revenue and issue an assessment order in ASMT 16 if he has sufficient ground to believe that any delay in doing so may adversely affect the revenue. Withdrawal can happen if on an application by the taxable person within 30 days of receipt of order or on motion, if ACDC considers the order to be erroneous. One thing you have to understand, everyone. Now listen. There can be withdrawal of the assessment order if application is given by the taxable person within how many days? 30 days or on motion. When? If either of the situation may ACDC considers the order to be erroneous. Means taxable person went ahead and told the officer that sir, order which you have passed is erroneous, and he considers it to be erroneous. Or on motion may, if he considers it to be erroneous, see Baba, right order, he will never go ahead and withdraw. On application by the taxable person, on own motion, if ACDC considers that the order is wrong, then only assessment order shall be withdrawn. Are we clear, everyone? Next, always remember who are the other people whose assessment can be done. Basically, such person means transporter, owner, operator of warehouse, person in charge when the taxable person cannot be traced. I hope everyone is clear. In both these situations, remember, assessment order will be withdrawn only if AC or DC, additional commissioner or joint commissioner, considers that the order is erroneous. I hope everyone is clear. In the exam, remember one thing, section number 62, 63 and 64 ka assessment orders which are passed, their copy also has to be uploaded online using GST DRC 07. That's a summary of the demand order, basically summary of the orders. Next, what are the orders that can be withdrawn by under one is base judgment under section number 62, one is summary assessment order under 64 if the additional commissioner or joint commissioner consider the order passed is erroneous. Assessment over here is a B graded topic, but I believe you should not leave because 3 to 4 mark can be easily asked in the exam. First thing which I consider provisional assessment to be very important. Okay? Provisional assessment में this interest calculation at the time of refund and at the time of paying the differential is very important. What are the recourses available to the officer is very important. They can ask you write a short note on scrutiny of return. They can tell you write a short note on non-filer. They can go ahead and tell you about the standard operating procedure. You should know them. And also they can tell you write a short note on summary assessment. They can ask you what are the orders that may be withdrawn. Best judgment assessment order can be withdrawn and summary assessment order under section number 64 also can be withdrawn. Best judgment under 62 can be withdrawn if you file the return within 30 days and summary assessment order can be withdrawn if the AC or DC considers the order as erroneous. Right, everyone? I will go ahead and conclude my revision on assessments over here. Congratulations, people.